like Imran's forgetfulness. My wife is always complaining. You tell him something, he didn't register on him. He's thinking about the next book he has to write. So, how can it reach to the Arsh? Well, then let's look at Surah Al-Fatiha to find the answer. Is there any doubt that the Quran, the first verse of the Quran is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Anybody challenge that? No, good. And that the first surah of the Quran is Surah Al-Fatiha. Anyone challenge that? Good, mashallah, we have a good class here. And therefore that the first ayah, or the first verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Fatiha is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good, no problem. See how easy it is, Sheikh Ali Basar? So Surah Al-Fatiha is comprised of 7 verses. And the first verse, how do we know it's 7? Because Allah speaks about sab'an min al-matani. 7 often repeated verses. This is Surah Al-Fatiha, so we know it's 7. And we know that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is verse number 1. So then we can go on now to the other 6. If there are 7 verses in Surah Al-Fatiha, and they are identified as 7, and it is 7 which is constantly repeated, then I better pay attention to this 7, So this is what we did now. We went and did our homework, we went into the Quran, and we found that Allah, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created the material universe, the earth, ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَسَوَّاهُنَّ سَبْعَ السَّمَاوَاتِ. Oh my gosh, we are making progress now. He created, after having created the material universe, he directed attention to the skies, and he then fashioned them into 7 samawat. So now, between here and there, the Arsh, there are 7 samawat. What is the English translation or the French? We have French-speaking people here of samawat, but there's a lazy translation which is heavens. That's the lazy translation. But samawat is not heaven, it's Jannah. So then what is the translation of sama? My teacher of blessed memory, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, was not lazy in his use of language. So he described as sama as a stratum. Oh, we never heard that word, such a difficult word. And then plural of stratum, we are told, is strata. And a stratum is a world of space and time. You could imagine how our 21-year-old eyes opened big when we heard of these things. There are 7 samawat, and therefore 7 worlds of space and time between here and the Arsh. And if the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, which is incidentally 7 verses, so it looks as though each verse is linked to a sama. So that if the recitation can climb, or to use a better word, ascend, okay, sama by sama, sama by sama, which means that the one who is reciting, unfortunately I can't do it all the time, sometimes I do it, I feel sad about it. If the consciousness when you're reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, the consciousness is that each ayah that I recite, and notice that Sheikh Ali Mustafa never joins 2 ayah together when he's reciting it. He recites Surah Al-Fatiha 1 ayah at a time. Watch him. When you recite Surah Al-Fatiha and you have the consciousness as you recite the ayat, that as you recite the first ayah, you have the consciousness of having reached the first sama. And then the second, and then the third, and the fourth. It's called the psychology of religion. Then by the time you reach Ameen, you would be psychologically at the Arsh. And now you're going to recite the Quran and Allah is listening to you. And you are at the Arsh reciting. So it's kind of difficult now because you're shaking a little bit. Huh? This traversing of the different worlds of space and time, every time you perform Salat, is the necessary introduction to the subject of the dimensions of space and time. It's not an academic discipline to be studied at leisure when you have time to devote to it. It is a subject that confronts you every time you stand for prayer and you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. I'm sorry I had to take so much time to bring you here. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in the Mi'raj traversed the 7 samawat and reached to that point beyond which Jibreel alayhi salam could not go. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam then returned. And we were told that the spot on which he was sitting or lying was still warm. And so it was possible to travel all those worlds of space and time and come back in a journey which was essentially timeless because no time was spent. How did he make this journey? Is it the physical body that went? Or did the physical body remain lying on the ground and another body go? Do we have any other body other than the physical body? I told you about the companion who pulled himself away from his wife. Did I tell you about it? And rushed to the battlefield? No? No?
No. Explain.
Somewhere else. Not here.
You didn't.
All right, okay. A companion of the Prophet ﷺ married Hanzala just before the Battle of Uhud and was given permission to spend the night with his wife. And they consummated the marriage during the night, and he made his ghusl, because if you don't make your ghusl, you will be junub, in the state of janaba. So he made his ghusl and then got ready to leave, to perform his Salatul Fajr and then leave for the battlefield. His wife held on to him. Which wife would not? It's just one night of marriage. His wife held on to him and he was forced to have sexual relations with her, and he then rushed to the battlefield without taking a bath, ghusl. He plunged into the battle and was killed. The companion saw the Prophet ﷺ looking into the sky and saying, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. They looked into the sky, of course, very quickly because battle is going on. And they didn't see anything. And you don't have any time at that time to ask him, O Messenger of Allah, what's going on here? So when the battle was over, then they asked him, O Messenger of Allah, what was it in the sky? We saw nothing. He said, that brother of yours who got married yesterday and who came this morning and plunged into the battle and was killed, I saw the angels giving him ghusl. In order for the Prophet ﷺ to say that, he had to be able to recognize the face of the person, the body of the person. So there was a body with a face over there in the sky. But there's also another one on the ground. Yeah. And both had the same features. When they returned to Medina, then they got the information, and the riddle was solved, that he was in a state of janaba when he was killed. This story, or this event, informs us about the spiritual body. There is a spiritual body. In the Isra and Miraj, we now have an understanding of the process of creation. That Allah first creates the spiritual body. And it is the spiritual body without a material form. So that in Jannah, when they were asked to live in Jannah, they didn't need any toilets. No. Uskun anta wa zawjuka al-jannah. You and your wife go and live in heaven. They didn't need any toilets. Because although it was a body, it was not as yet a biological body, subject to biological laws. But then came the process of transformation, when the physical body then took on a crust, okay, and emerged in biological form. If it can move in this direction, from spiritual to material, then it can be reversed. The movement can be reversed. And the movement was reversed in the Isra Miraj. So there was no physical body on the ground. No. The Prophet went. Nothing stayed on the ground. But, says Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, his physical body was transformed into its transcendental form. That is his language. And it is in this transcendental form that he traversed the Samawat. But notice, and he gave us a description of all the things that he saw while traveling in the Samawat. But notice there were two events that occurred in the Isra Miraj, which did not happen by accident. First of all, there was a caravan which was camped for the night. And Buraq came down on earth, and Nabi Muhammad ﷺ got off Buraq, and there was a container with water, and there was a lid on the container. He removed the lid, he drank the water, and then he replaced the lid. That did not happen by accident. That happened to teach a lesson. And it was not confined to providing proof to the Quraysh that this actually happened, because the caravan did eventually come to Mecca. And they questioned the caravan, and they said, yes, we went to sleep at night, and there was a container with water, and the lid was on the container, and when we woke up in the morning, the water had disappeared, and the lid was still there. But this was not meant only to convince the Quraysh about the truth of what he was saying. This was also meant to help us understand the subject of Dajjal. Because Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, while traveling in another dimension of space and time, came back to this world of space and time and drank the water, and then returned to that world of space and time. So movement between two dimensions of world of space and time, from the unseen to this world, is possible.